board members, Mr. Gonzalez, district staff, and audience in attendance. Time is 6 on the dot p.m. on this, the 26th day of April, 2022, and I call this special call meeting of the United Independent School District Board of Trustees to order. If I can have all the board members present recite their names for the record.
Frank Castillo.
Ricardo Rodriguez.
Juan Roberto Ramirez.
Gabriel Montemayor.
Elisa Oliveros.
Ricardo Molina.
And myself, Ramiro Vélez III. Let the record show that quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. Agenda item 3 is the Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll do the text.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state of God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. Agenda item 4, public comments. Mr. Gonzalez, do we have any public comments?
At this time, we do have one public comment.
One public comment?
Yes, Mr. Ned de la Viña from TSTA, he will be commenting on the budget and in particular pay raises.
Mr. De La Viña, good afternoon.
Thank you. Good evening, honorable board members, Superintendent Gonzalez. For the record, René de la Viña, TSTA representative. I just wanted to convey to you from our members, we're 3,000 strong here in Laredo, and plus our non-members also they actually approached me also. This is in reference to a pay raise. I know that you've given them, in the past, you've given them bonuses and they're very appreciative of that, but they have not received a pay raise though in 3 years. And the reason I'm trying to explain the difference that a pay raise every month helps them in their retirement versus a bonus, which is wonderful. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're very appreciative of that. Just helps them one time when they send it off to Austin or teach retirement. So having said that, we're asking that you please give them a pay raise. I know money's tight. It's the same thing they told me at the Laredo ISD, and money's always tight. I've been doing this since 1978, and I haven't heard one time yet that they say there's money. So, there's never money. I always hear that, so I understand that. But anyway, do what you can to please give them a pay raise. We'll be very appreciative. I know that all of us have been through very difficult times, pandemic, gas prices are going up, inflation, etc. And we've been through the tough times. Hopefully these things will go behind us, and hopefully the pandemic never comes back. But having said that, we please ask you for your support. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir, for the comments. Agenda item 5, informational items. At this time, we'll move to the presentation and discussion of the budget workshop. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening, members of the board, members, Mr. Gonzalez, members of the audience. We're bringing you today kind of like just an update of where we are in our current finances, and then where we are in our budget process, which is a very long process. But I can send you. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, so you'll see there are the topics that we're going to be reviewing with you tonight. Don't think this is it, that there's a budget that we're going to have you adopt tonight. We're kind of months away from that, but we're going to get there. The first slide I'm going to show you has to do with enrollment. I don't know if you can bring that one.
Yes.
I think you remember last July and August when we were talking about the current year budget, we kept on seeing on our online registration that we just did not see numbers. We kept on not seeing numbers. Mr. Garza kept on reporting to y'all, what, this many students have started, these many haven't, and this was the reality that happened. Here we are at the end or halfway through our 6 weeks, and these are our numbers so far. We had projected an enrollment of 41,338. The first 6 weeks, we peaked at 38,527, and you'll see the difference. 2811 is the difference between the 38,527 and the 41,338. The second 6 weeks, we looked a little better. I guess more kids started coming in. And I'll give you a breakdown of that particular time because that's our snapshot time. TA makes us submit our enrollment, how many kids haven't come back, dropouts, leavers, etc. All kinds of data gets submitted to TEA at the end of the second 6 weeks. So at that point, looking at the 1,800 kids that hadn't shown up at that time that we thought would show up, 955 of those were elementary level, and 919 of those were secondary. So, you know, we just start trying to think, okay, did these kids leave? There's leaver codes that tell you that they went back to home country. There's leaver codes that tell you they went to another public school district. But what surprises, if you look at the very last statement, that the number of students identified at this point in time in PEAMS, which is our snapshot at the end of October, about 1,400 kids, or almost 1,500 kids, 1,493 were identified as homeschool. There's a leaver code, there's a code number 60 or something like that, that tells us these kids are being homeschooled. Elementary, 1,032, and secondary, 461. And so as time went on, third 6 weeks, maybe more kids started coming in, parents started being a little safer, maybe new students to our district. And then fourth 6 weeks, there you see another drop. And then finally on April 8th, you know, we were 1,200 under from our enrollment. So the story here on enrollment is 1,200 kids have not come back that we thought would be here. Are they still being homeschooled? I think we have about maybe 900 kids still being identified as homeschool. The majority of them are in the elementary grades. So I think what we are really going to try, and this will be the discussion for Budget 2023, is we're going to try as administration a big push, a campaign of these homeschool kids. We have data on them. We have where their parents live, or at least their last address. We have a way of communicating through media, social media, billboards, just trying to let them know we are safe. We've gotten the portable air filter units in our pre-K classrooms. You know, we keep on, you know, we have desks, the shields, you know, just a good campaign to say, hey, we're safe, come back to school, this is where you belong. So that's going to go on to the Budget 2023, but I just wanted to let you know this is where we were on enrollment.
It will be real difficult to try to get an accurate projected enrollment for next year.
Well,
You guys are going to look at
yeah,
this
we're
numbers.
gonna look at what we rolled over for next year, and you'll see how that data impacts.
Mr. Davis, what is the dates relative to the third 6 weeks? Do you have the dates?
The third 6 weeks actually ends right before, if you
When do
look
they
at a
begin?
calendar, by, I think by December.
December.
Yeah. So really the first 6 weeks, it's the fall semester. And then when we come back in the January, it'll be the fourth 6 weeks.
So the third 6 weeks is what?
It's like the end of December, like maybe middle November
Till December, all
to
December.
December.
And when did it start?
November 8th.
Around November, right after Halloween.
That's what I wanted to
Yeah.
know.
November
Right
8th.
after Halloween.
Okay, right after.
November 8th. to
November
December 17th.
Actually, right after Snapshot, because Snapshot is like October 29th, so we're 20, sorry.
Just out of curiosity, what does one student mean in terms of ADA funding? I know there's different, for example, you can get special ed funding, you
You
can
know
get
what?
dyslexia.
Right,
for-
so in our district, the way we see our calculation is probably one student, 75% of our students are state comp, like economically disadvantaged, so 3 out of every 4 students. So on average, we probably see about a $7,000 per student showing up 100% of the time.
Per year?
Per year. Yeah. And
If I
then-
can interject, the basic allotment, Mr. McMahon, is $6,160. But because we are that type of district that Lida described, where we have special students, we have all these different categories, bilingual and so forth, our district actually will receive on average about $7,000 a student. If he's here 100% of the time, or she. Okay, Lida did the easy part. We fought over this next slide.
You guys can switch to the next one.
Okay, well, I was gonna tell everybody to bring out their calculator on their phones and follow along, but then I decided I'm gonna make this slide a little bit easier. Just in a nutshell, everybody knows that this year was enrollment. And when enrollment goes down, you know that attendance is gonna be lower than what you budgeted. And then you add on the fact that we had hesitation to send the students to school at the beginning of the year. So the first attempt for the state to help us was gonna help us with the first 6 weeks only. Now we're at the point where they're gonna help us with the first, second, and third, and fourth 6 weeks. And what they're gonna do is they're going to get what this TPAR, which is the targeted percentage attendance rate of 1920. So last year's first, second, third, and fourth 6 weeks, they averaged out that percentage. For us, it's 95.58%. Then they looked at we look at what we're getting now, and we're at 92.10%. So to make it easy, that if you divide the 95 by the 92, you get a multiplier, and it multiplies to our average daily attendance for those 4 6 weeks. It was about 35,300. And we're going to have, then you have to project out your 5th and 6th, because it does not help us with the 5th and the 6th 6 weeks. So we've done our projections that we always do every year, and we've used those numbers, and now you have your whole year set out for you. The first 4 off of this average, and then the 2 what we're projecting. And if they come in as we project, we're gonna have an ADA of 36,569 versus what we budgeted was 38,839 average daily attendance. So it's gonna be about a $26.4 million shortfall in revenue. And we'll get to how we're gonna cover that revenue in a few slides. But basically what this does is it tells us, we ran other numbers, and we said, well, how much of this is due to enrollment loss, and how much is due to the actual average daily attendance dropping. And with our math that we have done, we realized that it was $14.5 million we lost in enrollment. So now that we're not a 41,000 student district, we're at around 39, 36, 39 I believe it is. Those are $14.5 million. You'll see that number comes up. And it's gonna come up, and it's gonna come up because it's gonna get those kids to come back to the school district. But with those students missing, even with the ones that are coming, our average daily attendance with that drop is costing us $11.9 million. So those numbers make up the $26.4 million. So we also have some other line items that we look at when it comes to revenue. Obviously, the biggest one is the state funding. The next largest number is our tax collections. We budgeted at $167.1 million. Right now, we're at 96.7% collected at the time that we did this presentation. That's right on target. We're right on the path to get to above a 98.5% budget that we collect, a 98.5 percentage that we budgeted. So we feel we're going to collect $161 million plus the difference that we have of a levy of about $169 million. So we're going to collect all of our tax collections. Everybody's paying their tax bill. So we're not worried about the tax collections. Interest rate, interest income, we always watch it. It's really low. Back in the day when we first started, we were at 6 to 8% interest rates. This used to be a significant number at about $3.5 to $4 to $5 million some year. But it's still one of the larger line items once you get through these 2 major revenue line items. And we budgeted $202.9 thousand. We're at $183,000. It does help us supplement some of the smaller programs, so we do watch it. When we started the year, we budgeted at 183. Interest rates were below 1%. Just a couple of days ago, now we're starting to get some rate of returns that are above 1%. So interest rates are starting to go up. So we're going to see some positive impact on interest income. The other large line item that helped United ISD was the SHAR's Medicaid funds. We were getting close to $5 million a year. When COVID hit, obviously those services took a blow. We weren't able to provide as many services as we could. So we cut it in half, and so far we've been hitting the 2.3 million. This year we expect to at least get to 2.3, we're probably gonna get higher. So this might be a revenue line item that we may increase for next year's budget because services for these students are starting to pick up and we can bill for these services.
What, I'm sorry, like what services, like speech therapy?
If I may, be the speech therapy, physical therapy, occupational therapy, psychological services, all those are services that we can make significant growth.
That we can bill for, yes. Excuse me. Then some of the major line items we look at, obviously we try to look at all expenses, but some are definitely a lot larger than others. And payroll, health insurance, we've had a shortfall in health insurance that hasn't been a secret for us for the last couple of years. And then we get into the summer months where we start looking at some major maintenance projects. In payroll, what we've noticed, we've been tracking vacancies this year, and on the high end, and hopefully we get close to this number, we're seeing right now about $5.4 million in savings in vacant positions that we haven't filled. We also have, this time of the year, tutorials start coming in, and we start preparing for summer school. This should be about a $2 to $3 million savings because ESSER funds are gonna pick that up this year for us. When we talk about health insurance, and we are gonna have a health insurance presentation, you'll see our plan and we'll show you some numbers and the history, but we're looking at that, a $6.9 million shortfall in health insurance, but 2.1 million of that is COVID or COVID related expenses. We're allowed to ask for reimbursements from various sources to get reimbursed for any of our COVID expenditures. Our biggest reimbursement pocket though are the ESSER funds. So again, we are gonna go into this to get reimbursed these ESSER funds, and we'll talk about that when we get to the health insurance presentation. The maintenance projects, we have HVAC systems. We met with Mr. Rangel, he's estimating about 403,000. We have some special ed modifications in 2 campuses, it's gonna be about 350,000. Alarms at a couple of schools, it's gonna be 135,000. And then he has several minor repair projects, and we add them up, it's about 383,000. So I believe, if I have done it, it's about $1 million more of expenditures that we're expecting for the summer projects. But even with all this, I expect no significant decrease in the general fund balance because we have the ESSER funds. And I make that statement because you all know that when we first started to receive ESSER funds, the state of Texas said, okay, you're getting those monies, you better survive with those monies. And that's exactly what UISD is doing. So when we see these major numbers, you tell somebody we're going to be $26 million short, the state has already told us you're going to use your ESSER funds to cover that shortfall. Unfortunately though, we're not going to get ESSER funds every year for the next, I'm going to retire in 4.5 years, I'm making sure that 4.5 years, it's going to run out in 2 years. No, I'm not retiring in 4.5. So when we get to the summary, yes, we know we're gonna end at about $26.4 million short in state revenue. The payroll savings of $5.4 million that we're hoping we can get close to that number. Maintenance projects are $1.3 million, and then the possible ESSER reimbursement of $23 million. The net of this is a positive increase to the fund balance of about $700,000. I wrote in my notes when I was preparing for this, it may fly. So I guess that was telling me, saying that we may not be able to count on $700,000. You know, with our district, our size, our needs, $700,000 is unfortunately not a lot of money for us, and that could actually break even. You know, we could use those $700,000 for something that may come up between now and we close the financial statements for the fiscal year.
You didn't even put in the slides.
It flew already.
Well, we know people may be listening and come in and ask for stuff.
Yeah, they'll ask for the $700,000.
So then we broke up this presentation into 2. Where are we right now and how we're looking at next year's budget. And so the next slide, I know it's kind of busy, but these are the issues that we're looking at. So our projected student enrollment for next year, and I put draft 4 because there's like three drafts before this, but anyway, this is 39,268, and I think what planning did was they kind of just rolled over the existing staff, you know, second graders to third to fourth, and that's kind of how we ended up at 39,268. So we're using that for our budget. This is how we're allocating to campuses. This is how we're staffing campuses. And so this is a very important number to us, for us. And so just to remember that last year we projected like 41,338. So really from last year's projection to this year's projection, that's an increase, that's a decrease of 2,000 students. So you'll see our graduating class is this big, and the first grade class is maybe 500 less kids in that graduating class. So, you know, that's what we're starting to see, right? I guess people are having kids. We're still trying to figure that out. So we think this decrease of 2,000 students, and we're running our templates, that just right off the top, you know, $14.5 million short in revenue, right? It kind of lingers from the year before, right? So with this, Sam and I have had this discussion. Does this mean if this is our real enrollment number, and if the legislators don't come back next year when they meet in 2023, does this mean that we have to find a way to decrease our needs by $14 million if we don't get more students? That's the bottom line. If we do not get more students, we have to find a way of, you know, trying for savings or, you know, some relief from the ESSER funds, at least in the next 2 years. So that's the reality right now. Maybe these 900 kids that I said are homeschooled, maybe they're going to come back in, you know. So that's our that's something we have to do as administration is do that really strong campaign and find these students and take the time this summer to find out what happened with these students. At least those that we know are still in town, are being homeschooled, and they're still in the area. The other thing is attendance issues. Well, we're going to work hard with incentives, but we might project a lower attendance rate. Parents still may be concerned to be sending the early grade students in, especially those that never were able to get vaccinated. TA still is allowing remote attendance for next year, right, Ms. Lessa?
Yes, but
So,
criteria met.
with certain criteria. So, there's still some issues going on that TA is saying we might be able to do remote conference. We have systems in place to provide instruction to these kids that will stay home, and we can count their attendance. But that system has to work perfectly to know that that student is getting instruction. And then we also don't know if TA will grant us some attendance relief next year. Maybe we'll have a surge in November again of COVID cases. I mean, I hate to be this way, but thank God the rest of the state had cases also because, TA granted us a relief for the first through the 4-6 weeks. That's the only way they'll do it. They will not do it only if it's happening here in Laredo. So, this is the thing, the unknowns for next year. That's why we, a conservative budget, knowing the reality of enrollment. State revenue, since they're not in session, we know our level of funding for all these programs. It's not going to change. They do start meeting in January 2023 for the following year. Our tax revenue, which is our maintenance and operation tax rate, there's an acronym right there, MCR. It's called maximum compressed rate. And what that means is they will not allow us to pass a tax rate for the maintenance and operation. It's limited to what they call a 2.5% increase. Meaning if you look at your values, and that's the next bullet, that we see that our values are going up 17.3%. I don't know if y'all got your statements from your houses, but yes. So we did get our preliminary values this afternoon. I told Sam, really at 5:01 p.m. they sent us our values. Like it's too late to really kind of dig in there, but it is about a 17.3%. We know there's going to be protests. And I think the appraiser has factored in those protests in these values. So what happens to United ISD, even if we are growing that much in tax values, the state is going to make us lower our M&O tax rate. And just a little bit of history, in 2019 we had a tax rate, an M&O tax rate of $1.04. In 2020 we needed to go down to 96 cents, 96.6. And then this year, our tax rate is 94.5. With this kind of value increase, we might have to adopt a M&O tax rate of, let's say, 92 cents. I mean, we have to run our numbers. We wait till July 25th to get our final values and really kind of do the calculations. What the state has done is like, they don't want you can get the tax revenue, but they'll reduce your state revenue.
They're kind of capping.
They're capping.
They get a state value overall, and if that comes in, let's say, for example, this 94-cent one, if that would have come in at 92, it says the maximum compressed rate, so they're saying you get the maximum smallest rate, so we would have been at 92. If you exceed the state average, you're gonna use the lower of the numbers.
Yeah, so there's kind of like, so it is happening. We're getting tax relief, right, because we have to lower our M&O tax rate, but values are going up, yes.
Yes, ma'am.
What did you mean by M&L?
I'm sorry, maintenance and operation. We have two tax rates. It's the maintenance and operation, that's for operations, for salaries, for campuses and department budgets. And then we have our INS tax rate is to pay back our debt. So again, expenses, like Sam kind of did his explanation on where we are on these expenses. So in personnel, we are including in the budget positions for opening Ricardo Molina Middle School. And this is pretty much the administration, because pretty much we're moving teachers all over the place. Yes, from all the other middle schools that are losing enrollment. But it's mostly like the librarian, the nurse, principal, some APs, etc. That's the type of positions that we're adding for Ricardo Molina Middle School at this time. We are removing positions due to a lower enrollment. So I know HR is still working with campuses and the special programs like special ed, dyslexia, etc. On payroll, I know there was some information shared with you on the teacher scale, and I think, we're not that bad. I think it's pretty good, but it is, it is of concern because I think we can't afford to get too far behind, but at the same time, we got to find a way to find that balance. And then vacancies. Sam talked about vacancies. I mean, if we feel these vacancies are not going to be filled for whatever reason, y'all hear it's a nationwide issue, we may remove them from the budget and say, okay, why budget for people that aren't going to come in? So we're looking at that carefully as well. And then on the non-payable budgets, we had no change to campus and department allocations. We just said, look guys, here's your budgets, be conservative, be careful, etc. Right, Sam? So we just allocated the same. It's not a lot of money that 83% of our budget.
To be fair to the
goes
campus and the departments, we cut them many, many years ago, and we never gave them back any more money, so that is.
Right. And then health insurance, Sam talked about that. There is a concern about the impact of COVID treatments, testing, and vaccinations, and that's going to be a separate presentation. And then, of course, we can't talk about our budget without talking about ESSER 3. This money will be available to us through school year 2024. So we can find a way to balance some of our needs with this money. Of course, there's that funding cliff that they keep on talking about that comes in 2024. This would be August 2024. So but we always have to remember, at least 20% of this money has to be set aside for learning loss. So this summer school, tutorials, just anything to recover these kids and bring them up to grade level and their reading, etc. All kinds of programs that we're trying to support the kids with.
But is there some gain there for us? Because instead of using our own local funds, we're using the ESSER funds for summer school?
We've had some savings, that we think we're going to have some savings on general fund and in our Title I funds, like we have some other federal funds that maybe we can redirect other
The
programs.
big numbers were on the slide where we said summer school and tutorials.
So in ESSER 3, we will be bringing you a plan in July, just kind of like an update. Every 6 months, we want to bring you an update on this, because it is a lot of money. It's 127 million, of which we're going to use 23 million. So the next slide just kind of shows what we expect to happen the rest of the year, or through August. We do want to probably have a workshop with you, maybe June. We'll have some better numbers. All the staffing and everything would have settled by then, hopefully. Calculation of tax rates, we get our final values on July 25th. Then, of course, we have to hold a public hearing and a 10-day notice in the newspaper based on what we calculated. And then in August, this is our hope that in August, we're bringing you a budget and a tax rate to adopt. So really June, July, and August, we're rolling up our sleeves. We're working with administration to see how we're going to get this thing balanced, meet our needs, and find these kids to get them back.
So on that note, and this is kind of even hurting me in my own personal job, but have you ever considered enrolling 3-year-olds?
We've talked about that in the past. When was that done?
This time we're looking at the deep south schools, and it's about the Juarez Lincoln. We're looking at those.
So obviously that would be, if anything, for next school year. Yeah. And then that's where we come in with my other job, the Head Start position, and we can do the braided funding and work something out there, because we don't want to compete with the school district. We want to join the school district, but I feel like that would be a win for the district as well, because that's 88 funds that you're not pulling down, and they're out there. I'm hurting myself here, but I'm not. And it's a benefit to a lot of 3-year-olds who really need the service. And I know it's a 3-year-old is very delicate, and I can tell you that as a Head Start. It's very, it is something that you have to be trained. It's not a 4-year-old. There's a big difference between a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old. But LISD has been doing it for a very long time now. and we've been doing it with them. So I think that's something that we really need to consider. Yeah.
In general, real quick, before we get to the health position, what kind of vacancies are we talking about? Are we talking about administrative? We're talking about campus level, teachers? Where do you see that big?
Well, I think where we're seeing it a lot, right, Ms. Gonzalez, we're seeing a lot of teacher aides, right? Teacher
We have
aides.
about, when we looked at the last 300 and some paraprofessionals and auxiliary, our main.
Those are the main
vacancies.
ones. Yeah.
I have the list right here.
Yeah, and, yeah. That's kind of where we're seeing it. And again, sometimes these jobs just didn't get filled for a year, maybe even 2 years. It's not that, and we do have like bus driver positions too. Can we make ends meet with our existing, staff? If not, maybe part-timers. I mean, we just, custodial, like just all over the
I
place.
think they're all over the district, different positions, but I think there's certain departments that are making it with less than the staff that they should be. So bus drivers is one that comes to mind that I know we've been short, and there's been a lot of people that have picked up the slack with that.
Right, right.
So their position we evaluated, and this position we haven't filled in maybe a couple of years, then that's when it's time to make decisions whether we need that position or not. We've been making it without it. I can tell just the bus drivers, in September, we're short 27. Right now, we're short 41. We still have not filled.
I can see that. Just when it comes to the classrooms, when it comes to teachers handling excess loads in their classes, over 30 students, and that's more around is the delivery of the instruction suffering at any point because of these vacancies. That's more where I want to kind of figure out.
And I'm sorry, I meant to say custodians. We're short 27 in September. Right now, we're still short 40 plus custodians.
So it's more the auxiliary and the paraprofessionals?
Yes.
Okay.
Regarding the ESSER funds, you said, if I heard you correctly, 127 million is there?
That's how much United ISD was allocated.
Was allocated, but is it still there?
Yeah, we've been planning, we've been spending some of it on some COVID teams.
How much have you spent?
Just off the top of my head, I can't tell you, but I can give you an update in July. We'll do a presentation to the board. But we are planning on spending about 23 million to cover our revenue shortfall.
Then the balance of after that, where do we put it, Earl?
I know we are planning to purchase some interactive flat panels, the one-time, those one-time costs are kind of easier than, ongoing. I know we have invested in some software programs, but we can bring you an update on that. I hate to shortchange you and not give you pretty much everything that we have been doing, but we do have our
But we
COVID
do need to
teams.
spend it eventually, am I correct?
It's every dollar, Mr.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is a
Yes,
timeline
yeah.
on it.
No, but the ESSER funds.
Yes.
Yeah, we have till 2024, yes. You promised, yes.
We received 14 million in ESSER 1, and that has been spent. And then we received 56 million in ESSER 2, and that's being spent as we speak. So that one is just, so it's just the ESSER 3, and like Gladys said, we'll give you an update on it. Thank you.
Good evening, board members,
Good
Mr.
evening.
Gonzalez, and members of the audience. I'm Rosalia Dominguez, I'm the Director of Risk Management, and I'm going to go ahead and present to you or give you some information regarding our health insurance plans. This is the health insurance planning review, and basically, if we go to the next slide, we're going to see the 901-22. Our plan year starts from September 1st up until August 31st. We don't go by a calendar year. We're starting our 5th year of guaranteed rates for this coming up renewal rates. We are still self-insured, and the renewal rates that I'm going to present to you right now include our stop-loss insurance coverage. If you notice here on the renewal administrative fees for plan year 2022 to 2023, if you notice, we are having a savings of $396,723. mainly because if you notice on the cost during this year, the 2021 to 2022, it was 11.86, and that's per employee per member, and it went down to $5.49. Unfortunately, our stop loss, which is 525, it did increase at 236,664. Basically, what that means, we did encounter several large claims that went over the 525. So of course, that brought up the cost and the insurance because of the loss ratios.
What's a large claim? Just
Large claim, anything over the $525,000. We've seen at least up until today, or up until the end of February, we've had about 6 or 7 claims that have been over $1 million per person.
there's stability figure.
Yeah, and that deductible is just per person, not the whole total. So any individual, for whatever the illness might be, it might go, or will go over that.
Do those numbers include the family as well, or just
Yes, sir.
the individual? Okay.
Yes, it is based on the numbers. If you notice the 5,388, that is based on the actual employees. But yes, the plan does include dependents, whether it's children, spouses, or families. Yes, sir. And right here, if you notice, this is our pharmacy or cost for the history for the past 3 years. If you notice, back in 2019, 2020, prior to when COVID actually hit, when we saw it back in March of 2020, the annual cost was at $39.8 million. For 2020 to 2021, if you notice, that's when we saw a lot of the COVID cases that started coming in. We went up to $46,272,982.82. And now for September 2021, up until the end of February, we're already at 23.4, which is just basically half of the plan year. It's only 6 months. We're bound to see the other 6 months. We're still having, unfortunately, we saw that surge back in November, December, January. Those ones we're just getting in the bills from the doctors, the hospitals, the clinics, and everything else that provided, either the pharmaceutical or the medical. So we are expecting to see a high amount from that, unfortunately. We're still being affected by COVID, the COVID pandemic. If you notice this on this one, this is just COVID-19 expenses from 2020. Like I mentioned, we did start back in March of 2020 up until year to date, once again, the end of February of 2022. If you notice, we have the number per year, the 2020, 21, 2022 year to date, the number of cases that we have, the treatment cost, the test that we have, the test cost, and then the vaccinations. If you notice in the vaccinations, it just has a number for 2022 year to date, because as we know, vaccinations do not come in until afterwards. Actually, January of 2021 is when they started, and they were not actually available to everybody towards the end of the year. So that's why we just noted that number. But in overall cost for COVID, including all three, the tests, the vaccinations, and medical treatments, it's at $9,206,918.45. As I mentioned, this is up until the end of February. So that number will definitely go up.
Were those COVID tests that employees were taking off-site, like not on our campuses, not the ones that we have? Correct? Like if they went to an ER, what have you?
Right. Actually, I'm glad you mentioned that now. The test, those were here, but at the beginning, before we had the at-home and before we had the ones that were available to all employees at the district that were visiting, we saw a lot of emergency visits.
Yes.
And so those, those claims did add up to a high amount. The plan comparisons, if we notice, went ahead and compared 3 of the districts, of course, United ISD, LISD, which is the only other local district, and of course, Brownsville ISD, and that one because it's more comparable to UISD as far as size, student enrollment, and employees enrolled. So if you notice, towards the bottom, I do have the employee cost and the district contribution. For example, UISD, and this is based on the most used plan. For example, this is a core plan, or what we call now the silver plan. So that's the one where we have the most enrollment, and that's where I went ahead and made comparisons to the other plans that the other districts or the other entities are more comparable to us. So if you notice on all of them, I went ahead and gave you a breakdown. Once again, for example, UISD, the district contributes $425, employee contributes $81.12. For LISD, the district contributes $525, and the employee is at $145. And then Brownsville ISD with the employee, the district is $580, and then the cost for the employee, it's at $15. It was very interesting, and I will share this with you, that they have a very famous now citizen that's part of Brownsville that has been given very generous contributions to the district. So,
It's an anomaly.
Yeah, yes, yes. I found it very interesting.
We need to go knock on some people's doors.
Yes. Yes, so it was very interesting to find out that, I mean, it is helping.
He needs to move to Laredo, you know?
Yes. Yes, and then we went ahead.
Just bought Twitter.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's true. Yesterday was announced. It was announced yesterday.
So these are all plans under Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Yes, so if you notice at the very top, I did go ahead and included the provider, which most of them, it's UISD, LISD, Brownsville ISD has Blue Cross, TRS also. I went ahead and included something comparable to the state, which is TRS Active Care. They also do have Blue Cross. The city of Laredo has Blue Cross, and then I do have Webb County, and they do have Aetna. With them also, if you notice, the coverage is also, they're very minimal, just something to be able to give you, once again, a comparison as far as the coverages, the deductibles, the co-pays that each entity does provide for their employees.
I am a county employee, and one of the things that Dr. Alvaro has done to reduce healthcare costs was open up an employee healthcare center where they're open Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And so I've gone in, I've taken my children. You could go in for a strep test. You can go in for basically anything you would at a local clinic at no cost to the employee. The county pays for the facility, and the county pays the salary for the, I think the nurse practitioners that are there. They're going to be opening up, I hope I'm not talking wrong here for Dr. Alfaro, but he told me the plans are to open up a lab where we can go in for blood work, and this is going to save Webb County a tremendous amount of money. So I would recommend something like that for the district. But as an employee, it's awesome, because we go, there's hardly any wait time. It's only open to those that are on the healthcare plan for Webb County, and zero cost to the employee.
Right, right. And that is also, like you mentioned, it does help the plan. As you mentioned, you all provide the nurse practitioner.
Yeah, I think
And
that
it's-
too.
Yes, okay, the nurse practitioners, we have to be able to provide the pharmaceutical, the prescriptions, everything else, to be able to take them out. The location, you already have the location. What we are planning to do this year is more towards the wellness, the preventive care, to try and concentrate on our employees before they get to cancer is one of the things that we see the most. Before they get to that phase, if I want to use that word, we're trying to do the wellness, promote the wellness where, okay, go in and go get your preventive checkups. We're planning on hopefully opening up also a small office with nurses, our wellness coordinator, which will be able to, we do have MD Live through Blue Cross, which is only a $15 copay for the employee. They get to do it through the phone. Doctors are available 24 hours, 7 days a week. So that helps it out with the time frame also. So we're trying to establish that also at this time, starting off with the wellness, prevent it before it gets to the point where it's already an illness, a chronic illness for the employee.
Only for the employee, or you're going to be expanding it to the family as well?
At this point, it would be for employees. Yeah, since it's a wellness, and it would be for employees.
So right before COVID, and I know Mr. Gasso was very instrumental in getting this, we actually have an MOU with Gateway.
With Gateway, I remember.
And that's where we can use our own school nurses at each campus, right? Where they would be able to do a flu test, a strep test, and work with physicians at the Gateway Center. And so we're hoping to, 50 sites with the school nurse there. I mean, all our school nurses are registered nurses, right? And so at least, and that would be for the students, and then we were going to expand it to the staff. So, I mean, we probably should work in this direction. We're working with Ms. Rosales for a mobile nurse clinic. She has about 3 or 4 nurses that she can send to departments that do not have a school nurse. So we're trying to go out into our sites with health type clinics. And I think this MOU with Gateway, we're looking at it to see if it needs to be reenacted. And right when we had passed it, I think COVID started and our attention went to COVID.
I
So-
do remember that.
Yes,
And
yes.
that would be awesome if they could get through Gateway a prescription for medication. And,
Right.
I mean, we can get shots even at our wellness clinic, you know. We can even get a TB test. I mean, it's almost like it's a standalone clinic is what it is for Webb County employees only. So,
Would you be able to bring information regarding the state of Texas insurance plan? Not TRS, but ERS or federal, or is it coming up?
Yes, definitely. If you go to the next slide, I do have the web links for all the entities, and I went ahead and presented to you.
Right.
If you click on that, it'll take you directly to where I obtained that information, sir. So you would be able to.
The federal is there?
I'm sorry, the federal?
The federal?
Oh, okay, no, I'm sorry, this is TRS.
Yeah, I'm asking for federal, and I'm
Federal?
asking for ERS.
Yes, sir. I
Employee
will be
retirement.
glad to go ahead and research on that and get that information for you, sir.
so is there any federal funds available to recoup some of the COVID costs?
Yes, that's the next slide.
Okay.
But yes, the financial information, that's going to be Mr. Flores, that's going to be presenting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I always get the slide, and then I get the numbers.
That was totally scripted, we practiced.
I always get the negative numbers. We're sticking with the 4-year comparison, and in 2019, we had 5,509 employees on our health insurance plan. And we're only gonna talk about employee only because then it gets a little bit convoluted with all the different plans and the different premiums that they all have to pay. Excuse me. So back in 2019, an employee only was contributing $51.12, and the district was contributing $408.51. However, we supplemented the plan with $2 million in order to break even with the plan. So we in essence really contributed $439.20, which is an increase on the district share of $30.69 per member per month. Then we get to the infamous year of 2020. We still have 5,500 employees enrolled in health insurance. We increased them slightly to 5,635. The district also increased its share for $413.51. And we still had to supplement because COVID started to hit, and we started to see the COVID medical claims and pharmaceutical claims come in. So out of the 3.7 that the fund was over, 2 million was reimbursed by the ESSER funds.
Okay.
So that answers your question.
Yes,
We're always
yeah.
looking for reimbursable opportunities for health insurance. And ESSER has been the go-to account to do this. But we knew we were gonna have an increase in expenditures because the $2 million the year before, but even increasing it, because when COVID hit, even people that probably like myself that had a sore throat thought I had COVID and I went to the doctors. So people that normally would not have gone to a doctor with a sore throat because of COVID, they started hitting all the ER centers. So even if they didn't have COVID, people were nervous, they were scared, they were concerned. And so doctors' visits started to increase, especially the standalone ER units. And you see it again in 2021. Again, we increased the contribution for the employee. We increased it for the district as well. But now we're at 7.4 million. Here's COVID's in full force. And 4.4 million of that is what we're gonna be, some of that's already been reimbursed, the rest is in the claims process to get it reimbursed from ESSER. But the difference again is that $3 million. And of that $3 million, that's where you start seeing, it could have been back to that $2 million that we were underfunded a couple of years before, but again, not everybody's going to the doctor because if they would have had a headache before, they would have gone home and taken time on, gone to sleep. Now they're heading to the emergency rooms because of the fear of COVID.
So the actual cost per employee is roughly about $615, but the district actually covers
$425.
But that's about 85% of that, more or less.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I'm an accountant, I need a calculator.
Yes.
Yeah, no, you're good. Yes, sir.
Okay.
And then we get to 2022, this is a double whammy. Because if you notice, from 2019, we had 5,500 enrolled employees on our health plan, and now we're down to 5,343. So we lost employees because at this time, there's a change in presidents and politics, and now there's no penalty not to have health insurance. So it looks like to me, all the healthy people got off and said, I don't need health insurance, or those that couldn't afford it. Because we're so close to the border, it's no secret to a lot of people, a lot of our employees will seek medical help across the river. We lost a membership, and doing the numbers, that's a little over $1 million in revenue that lost. Plus, COVID is still an issue. So we're short 6.6 million. Right now, we feel 2.7 is reimbursable from COVID, and then you add in that million of loss of enrollment. So we're looking at the health insurance is still consistently that $2 million that we're kind of funding every single year. So we have hard decisions to make. The board has hard decisions to make. We do know that we have those savings that we get throughout the year, and we start using it and we start banking on those savings to supplement the health insurance fund. And it's been working for us, but it's probably not the most efficient way to manage a self-insured health insurance fund. So we have some decisions to consider when it comes to health insurance on what either the district's contribution, the employee's contribution, both, some kind of split. But we've had about $9.2 million that are directly related to COVID, that hopefully we're going to get it all reimbursed. But I would say there's probably an additional 3 million of people that would not have gone to the doctor these last 2.5, 3 years. But because of the fear, they're heading to the doctor quicker, and then they're going to the ER centers, and that costs the fund some money.
That's where your wellness.
Yes.
Wellness and the Gateway, if you could expand on that partnership with Gateway, I think you're gonna see a huge, as a Webb County employee, we have enjoyed the cost savings as an employee, a contribution. We have enjoyed it tremendously. And even our co-pays and our out-of-pockets have decreased, which is something you don't see these days. But Dr. Alvaro at Webb County has something good going on that maybe y'all should look into. But
just if you remember the slide of the budget presentation, we still net a positive 700,000.
Well, it's not bad considering that, when you identify the COVID cost.
That's a sibling.
That's a sibling.
Yeah.
No, but really, it's impressive because the majority of it is COVID, and if we can get that reimbursed through ESSER, and obviously, I'm not wearing a mask. Some of the fears that we have of COVID, being triple vaccinated, and now knowing that the virus itself is kind of diluting, and I'm hoping I'm not speaking too soon here, but it's gotten better. Our numbers are tremendously better. We should probably see enrollment looking really good. I have spoken to a few parents at homeschool, and they're just exhausted, and they're like, my kids are going back to school next year. We hopefully can expand with 3-year-olds for enrollment. We can get a wellness program going and get our employees to focus on health and well-being. We can get something going on with Gateway, and we can work on reducing those health insurance costs. I think we can get this in line within a matter of 2 years. I don't think that's impossible. You're already seeing some of it happening. So it's bleak, but it's fixable.
The last slide is to thank you all very much.
I had a question regarding, is Blue Cross Blue Shield the best carrier for the district, or?
Mr. Castillo, it is a good question. We're definitely going to tackle that issue next summer because we have this one more year with Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Okay.
Then we go out with RFPs, and we're going to bring in all the other entities, and they'll do a presentation. I don't know if it's just the management or if the board wants to be a part of it.
The committee's involved, and the administration.
Employee benefits committee.
And we'll be able to answer that question then.
And is it possible, I don't know, I know the county had that opportunity to join the county, a group of county offices together, so they could save money. I don't know, does the school district have that same association perhaps that?
It's like a consortium. It's like a consortium of all the the district counties go with Blue Cross, but Webb County opted to go with Aetna kind of defiantly. And I think that just made Blue Cross want the county back. So maybe next time they go out for bids, they'll provide a more attractive offer. So it just creates competition, which is really good
That's
for
what
the entity.
can be important.
But rest assured, Mr. Castillo, when you see all these negative red numbers, year after year after year, we're taking this very, very serious. You know, we're gonna take our time with the RFP process. We're gonna sit and enjoy their presentations and ask a lot of questions, because we will definitely, it is something we can turn around, but it is one of the major issues that UISD is facing on the self-insurance thing. So we will take it serious, and we're going to put our.
So if I may, we'll get our committees and our stakeholders involved, so I can recommend administration, we'll present that to you with our recommendation. And that's kind of goes.
So, thank you. Mr. Montemayor, again, thank you for, happy birthday to you. I'm just kind of glad it wasn't my birthday, because growing up, every time I had a birthday party, we had to sing happy
Not
birthday
true.
to Lisa as
Not
well.
true.
And she got half the toys as well.
So we have a meeting afterwards, Javier and I. He's gonna split his gifts with me.
Thank you all.
All right, thank you for the
Thank you.
information. All right, so we move on to agenda item 6, closed session. Time is currently 6:56 PM in accordance with Texas Government Code Section 551.071 and 551.074. The board will adjourn to closed session, discuss items 6A and 6B. No action will be taken in closed session. We'll be back approximately 15 minutes. All right, back in open session. Board has reconvened from closed session, and we are now in open session. Time is 7:08 PM. For the record, no action was taken in closed session. Agenda item 7A, action regarding the appointment of Director of Student Enrollment.
Yes, sir. Board President, members of the board, at this time, is my recommendation for Director of Student Enrollment to be Deba Martinez.
So, motion by Mr. Montemayor, second by Mr. Ramirez. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? None opposed, motion passes. Congratulations to Deba Martinez. Agenda item 7B, possible action and authorization to legal counsel regarding clause number 2021 CBK 00154633, Style Pedro Lopez at versus United Independent School District, currently pending the 341st District Court of Webb County, Texas. Proceed.
Yes, trustees, the recommendation on this item is to authorize legal counsel to proceed as discussed in closed session.
Second. Second by Mr. Ramirez. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? None opposed. Motion passes. Motion to adjourn. And one motion to adjourn. Agenda item 8. Thank you very much. Good evening.